Poor twins ask a young billionaire to be their dad at the school Christmas party, and his response leaves everyone in tears. The December afternoon was biting cold, and the sky was a heavy shade of grey that seemed to press down on the entire city. The downtown streets were packed with people in a rush, cars honking, and shop windows decked out in holiday displays. Red and gold garlands hung from the lampposts, and twinkling lights sparkled in every window. Everyone seemed to be in a hurry to get somewhere. At the entrance of the elementary school, two little girls waited alone. Ava and Nora Miller were 5 years old. They were identical twins with straight blonde hair that fell to their shoulders and clear blue eyes that shone even when they were tired. They wore old coats, a bit too large for them, and worn-out backpacks on their shoulders. They sat on the front steps, watching the other children leave with their parents. Some ran toward cars, others held their mothers' hands, chatting excitedly about the Christmas party happening in a few days. Ava kicked her legs, staring at the ground. "We won't be able to go, will we?" she asked softly. Nora gripped the strap of her backpack. "Mum said she has to work." Ava sighed. "All the other kids are bringing their dads." "I know." They fell silent, watching another family leave the school laughing. The father was carrying his daughter on his back, and the mother held a bag full of colorful craft paper. Nora looked at her sister. "We could ask someone to go with us." Ava furrowed her brow. "Who?" "I don't know. Someone nice." Ava didn't answer, but she started thinking. The truth was they didn't have many options. Their mother, Rebecca Miller, worked every day as a waitress at a diner downtown. She left home early, came back late, and was always exhausted. She did everything alone. There were no grandparents nearby, no uncles, no cousins. It was just her and the girls. And their father. Well, he had walked out before they had even learned to walk. Ava suddenly stood up. "Let's wait a little longer. Mom said she'd try to leave early." Nora nodded and stood beside her sister. But the minutes ticked by, and Rebecca didn't show up. The streets remained crowded. The cold wind bit at the girls' faces, and they shrugged their shoulders deep into their coats. That was when he appeared. Julian Carter was walking back from a meeting downtown. He wore a well-tailored dark overcoat, polished shoes, and carried a leather briefcase. He was 28 years old, tall, broad-shouldered, with brown hair combed back. His face was serious, but not cold. He looked like someone used to solving problems and making quick decisions. He always walked down that street. It was the shortest path to the parking garage where he left his car. But that day, something made him stop. Two blonde girls, sitting alone on the school steps, staring at the sidewalk as if waiting for something that might never arrive. Julian slowed his pace. It was none of his business. He knew that. But something about the way they sat there, so quiet, so small, tugged at him. He stopped a few feet away. "Are you girls okay?" he asked in a calm voice. Ava looked up. Nora did the same. Their blue eyes locked onto him, curious but cautious. "We're waiting for our mom," Ava answered. Julian nodded. "She shouldn't be long then." "She's working," Nora added. "Sometimes she's late." Julian wasn't sure what to say. He looked around. The street was empty now. Most of the children had already gone. "Have you been waiting a long time?" Ava shrugged. "I think so." He hesitated. Then he stepped closer and knelt down in front of them, bringing himself to their eye level. "Do you want me to call someone, to let them know you're here?" Nora shook her head. "Mom doesn't have a phone. She lost her old one." Julian took a deep breath. This was getting complicated. But before he could say anything else, Ava tilted her head to the side and asked, "Do you have children?" The question caught Julian off guard. "No, I don't." "Why?" Julian smiled in spite of himself. "I guess it just hasn't been the right time yet." Nora looked at Ava. Ava looked back. And then, as if they had agreed without speaking a word, they both turned to Julian at the same time. "Can you be our daddy at the Christmas party?" Ava asked, her voice small but determined. Julian blinked. "What?" "The school Christmas party," Nora explained. "It's on Friday. Everyone is bringing their mom or dad. But our mom has to work." Ava added quickly. "We don't want to go alone. The other kids will laugh at us." Julian stayed there, kneeling on the step, looking at those two blonde, blue-eyed girls who had just asked him to be their father at a school party. He should say no, he should explain that he couldn't, that it made no sense, that they didn't even know him. But when he opened his mouth to speak, what came out was, "When is the party?" Ava's eyes lit up. "Friday, at 3 o'clock, Nora added anxiously. "Can you go?" Julian took a deep breath. This was crazy. He had meetings, commitments, a company to run. He didn't know these girls. He didn't know their mother. He had no obligation whatsoever. But he looked at their hopeful little faces, at the way they held their old backpacks, at their worn-out coats, and something inside him gave way. "All right," he said, "I'll go." The smile that broke across their faces was instant, huge, and full of pure joy. "Really?" Ava practically screamed. "Really," Julian confirmed, and he couldn't help but smile too. Nora clapped her hands. "You're so nice." Julian stood up, straightening his overcoat. "But I need to talk to your mom first, so she knows, okay?" The girls agreed quickly, still beaming. "She works at the diner," Ava said. "We can take you there." And before Julian could think twice, the two girls had already grabbed his hands, one on each side, and were pulling him down the sidewalk. Julian looked down at the small hands holding his and felt something strange in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. They walked 3 blocks to the diner. It was a simple place with formica tables and vinyl booths, the smell of coffee and grease in the air. There were a few scattered customers, and a blonde woman in an apron was wiping down a table near the window. She looked up when the door opened, and she froze. Rebecca Miller was 26 years old, but she looked older. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a messy ponytail, and she had deep circles under her blue eyes. Her apron was stained, and she held a cleaning rag in her hand. She looked at her daughters, then at Julian, and her face went pale. "Ava? Nora?" Her voice came out tense. "What? Who is this man?" Ava let go of Julian's hand and ran to her mother. "Mom, he's really nice. He's going to be our daddy at the Christmas party." Rebecca blinked, confused. "What?" Nora went to her as well. "We asked him to go to the party with us, and he said yes." Rebecca looked at Julian, and he saw the fear in her eyes, the fear of a mother who doesn't know what's happening, who doesn't know if her daughters are safe. Julian raised his hands slowly. "I know this looks strange," he began in a calm voice. "I was passing by the school and saw them alone. We started talking, and they told me about the party. I only came here because I thought you should know." Rebecca continued to look at him suspiciously. "And why did you agree?" Julian hesitated. "Because," they asked, and I couldn't say no. Silence. Rebecca looked at her daughters. They were smiling, their eyes shining in a way she hadn't seen in months. She swallowed hard. "You don't have to do this." "I know," Julian replied, "but I want to." Rebecca stood there in the middle of the diner, rag in hand and daughters by her side. She was too tired to argue, too tired to be suspicious, and when she looked at this man in the expensive suit, she saw something she didn't expect: sincerity. She took a deep breath. "All right," she said softly. "If you really want to go, then thank you." Julian nodded. "I'll be there on Friday, 3 o'clock sharp." Ava and Nora burst into smiles again, hugging each other. Rebecca felt her eyes sting, but she didn't let the tears fall, not here, not in front of the girls. "Thank you," she repeated, and this time her voice was thick with emotion. Julian just smiled, waved to the girls, and left the diner. When the door closed behind him, Rebecca knelt down and hugged her daughters tight. "He's really nice, Mom," Nora whispered. "He really is," Ava agreed, and Rebecca, for the first time in a long while, thought that maybe there was still kindness in the world. Friday arrived quickly. Julian parked his car in front of the school at 10 minutes to 3. He straightened his tie, grabbed his briefcase, and took a deep breath before getting out. He didn't know why he was nervous. It was just a school party, but somehow it felt important. At the door, Ava and Nora were waiting. When they saw him, their faces lit up. "You came!" Ava shouted, running toward him. "I told you I would," Julian replied, smiling. Nora took his hand. "Come on, the party already started." They walked together into the gym, which was decorated with Christmas ornaments. There was music playing, children running around and tables full of food. Fathers and mothers chatted in groups, laughing. The teachers looked at Julian with curiosity. Some children pointed and whispered, but Ava and Nora didn't care. They pulled Julian to a table, introduced him to their friends and showed him the drawings they had made. Julian sat with them, helped serve the plates, and talked about Santa Claus and reindeer. He laughed when they told silly jokes. He clapped when they performed a song. And at some point, in the middle of that noisy, chaotic party, Julian realized something. He was happy, truly happy. When the party ended, he took the girls back to the diner. Rebecca was finishing her shift, wiping down the tables. She saw the three of them enter and stopped what she was doing. "How was it?" she asked anxiously. "It was perfect," Ava said, jumping up and down. "Everyone loved Julian." "He's the best daddy in the world," Nora added. Rebecca looked at Julian and he saw tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "Thank you for doing this for them." Julian shook his head. "It was my pleasure. Truly." Rebecca bit her lip, trying not to cry in front of her daughters. "He's so nice," Nora said, looking at her mother. And Rebecca finally let a single tear roll down. "Yes," she whispered. "Kai really is very nice." Julian stood there, watching that small family, and knew that something had changed inside him, something important, something he didn't know was missing until now. The following Monday started like every other day for Rebecca Miller. She woke up at 5:30 in the morning, made a quick coffee, woke the girls, helped them dress, made breakfast, packed their bags, and rushed to drop them at school before heading to work. The day was long, full of hurried customers, wrong orders, and small tips. When 3:30 in the afternoon rolled around, Rebecca looked at the clock on the diner wall and sighed. Time to pick up the girls. She grabbed her purse, told her boss she was leaving, and rushed down the sidewalk. Always rushing, always late, always tired. When she turned the corner of the school, she slowed down, and she stopped. Julian was there. He was at the school door, kneeling in front of Ava and Nora, talking to them. The girls were laughing at something he had said, swinging their backpacks. The afternoon sun hit their blonde hair, making it glow. Rebecca stood there for a second, confused, not knowing if she should approach or not. Julian looked up and saw her. He smiled and waved his hand. Rebecca walked over slowly, adjusting the bag on her shoulder. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice coming out softer than she intended. Julian stood up, straightening his dark overcoat. "I was passing by and thought I'd check if they were okay." Ava let go of her backpack and ran to her mother. "Mom, Julian just got here. We were waiting for you." Rebecca looked at Julian, then at her daughters. She didn't know what to think. Why had he come back? You didn't have to do this," she said awkwardly. "I know," Julian replied simply, "but I wanted to." Rebecca fell silent. She didn't know what to say. No one had ever done anything like that for her. "Can I walk you to the diner?" Julian asked. "If you don't mind, of course." Rebecca hesitated. She looked at her daughters, who had huge smiles on their faces. "All right," she finally agreed. They walked the 3 blocks together. The girls went ahead, jumping over cracks in the sidewalk, talking non-stop about their day at school, about art class, not about lunch, about the new friend who sat next to them. Julian listened to everything attentively, asking questions, laughing at the silly stories. Rebecca walked beside him in silence. She didn't know what to talk about. He was from another world. Expensive suit, polished shoes, confident manner, and her. She was just a tired waitress in old clothes with a hard life. When they reached the diner, Julian said goodbye with a wave. "See you later, girls." "Bye, Julian," they shouted, waving back. He walked away down the sidewalk, hands in his overcoat pockets. Rebecca stood in the doorway, watching him disappear. "He's nice, right, Mom?" Nora asked, tugging on the hem of her apron. "Yes," Rebecca answered softly. "Yes, he is." On Thursday of that same week, Julian appeared again. Rebecca was rushing down the sidewalk. her hair flying loose, when she turned the corner of the school and saw him there, again, at the door, talking to the girls as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She slowed her pace, taking a deep breath and trying to fix her hair. "Are you going to make a habit of this?" she asked as she drew near. But her voice didn't have irritation, only curiosity. Julian shrugged, a slight smile on his face. Maybe. And he did. Every week, 2 or 3 times, Julian would show up at school pickup. He never gave warning, he simply appeared. And every time, he walked the 3 of them to the diner. At first, the walks were mostly silent. Rebecca didn't know what to say to him. She was afraid of saying something stupid, of sounding ignorant. He was a businessman, rich, successful, and she had barely finished high school. But the girls filled the silence. They talked non-stop, about everything and nothing, about school, about friends, about the drawings they had made, about the teacher who told a funny story, and Julian listened to it all. He didn't pretend to pay attention. He actually listened. He asked questions. He laughed with them. He seemed genuinely interested. Gradually, very slowly, Rebecca began to relax in his presence. One afternoon, while they were walking, Nora looked up and asked, "Julian, what do you do at work?" "I own an engineering firm," he replied, tucking his briefcase under his arm. "We design big buildings and bridges." Ava's eyes went wide, impressed. "Real bridges, like the big ones?" "Real ones," Julian confirmed, smiling. "Wow, that's so cool." Julian gave a low laugh. "It is cool, but it's a lot of work. A lot of meetings, a lot of numbers, a lot of problems to solve." Rebecca looked at him from the side, curious now. "Is that why you're always in a suit?" "More or less," Julian replied. "I like to look presentable. My adoptive father always said that first impressions are the ones that last." Nora swung her backpack on her back. "You look very important." Julian laughed again. "I try to be useful, at least." Rebecca felt something strange in her chest. That man could be doing 1,000 things, important meetings, business dinners, anything. But he chose to be here, walking on the dirty sidewalk with her and her daughters. Why? She still didn't fully understand. But she was starting to accept that maybe he really just wanted to be there. On a rainy Friday in December, Julian showed up with a large black umbrella. The sky was grey, and a fine but steady rain was falling. "Come on," he said, opening the umbrella over the girls. "No one's getting wet today." Ava and Nora laughed, huddling under the big umbrella. Rebecca stayed a bit behind, letting the fine rain dampen her hair and shoulders. Julian looked back and saw her there, getting wet. "Rebecca, come on, there's room for everyone." She hesitated. Then she took a few steps and stood under the umbrella too. The 4 of them walked together. The space was tight. Rebecca and Julian's shoulders brushed lightly with every step. The girls jumped into puddles, laughing loudly and making noise. Rebecca looked sideways at Julian. He was looking straight ahead, holding the umbrella firm. "Why do you do this?" she asked softly, almost unintentionally. Julian didn't answer right away. He kept walking, thinking. "Because I like it," he finally said in a calm voice. "I like being with them, with you." Rebecca felt her heart give a strange skip in her chest. "But why? You don't even know us properly." "We're nothing to you." Julian stopped walking. The girls kept going ahead, distracted by the rain and the puddles. He turned to Rebecca, the umbrella still open over both of them. "Maybe I'm getting to know you now," he said, his eyes fixed on hers. "And maybe you're more important than you realize." Rebecca held his gaze for a second. She felt her face heat up. Then she looked away, biting her lip. They continued walking in silence, and for the first time in a long while, Rebecca felt something different inside her chest. She wasn't alone. Someone was there, someone who showed up, someone who truly cared. In the following weeks, Julian kept appearing, every week. Twice, sometimes 3 times, without fail. And the conversations on the way became longer, more natural, easier. Rebecca started talking about work, about difficult customers, about the boss who complained about everything, about the days that seemed never to end. Julian listened without judgment, and he shared too. About his company, about complicated projects, about meetings that lasted hours and resolved nothing. And the girls, they just grew happier and happier, happy to have someone waiting for them at the school door, someone who asked how their day was, someone who cared. One day, while they were walking, Ava looked at Julian with her bright blue eyes and said, "You're our friend now, right?" Julian smiled, a genuine smile. "Yes, I am," Nora added, holding his hand. "Our best friend." Julian felt a tight squeeze in his chest, an emotion he hadn't felt in years. "You're my best friends too." Rebecca watched the scene happening ahead and felt her eyes sting. She swallowed the lump in her throat. That man was changing their lives. Without realizing it, perhaps, but he was. He was building something with them, slowly, brick by brick, without rush, but building nonetheless, a bond, trust, something solid. And when Julian said goodbye that day, waving to the girls before walking away, Rebecca stood at the diner door, watching him disappear around the corner. "He's coming back next week, right, Mom?" Ava asked, tugging on her apron sleeve. Rebecca looked at her daughter and smiled, a small but real smile. "Yes, he is." And this time, she truly believed it. It was on a Tuesday that everything changed again. Julian had appeared at school pickup as usual, talking to the girls while they waited for Rebecca to arrive. But this time, when she came running around the corner with messy hair and her apron still stained from work, she saw something different. Ava had her notebook open on her lap, showing something to Julian, and she didn't look happy. Her little face was downcast, her eyes red. Rebecca approached slowly, her heart tightening. "What's wrong?" she asked, looking at her little daughter. Ava looked up, and Rebecca saw that she had been crying. Her cheeks were still damp. "The teacher gave us math homework," Nora explained, holding her backpack with both hands. "And Ava couldn't do any of it." "I couldn't do it either," Ava murmured, her voice so low it was almost inaudible. "It's too hard, Mom. I don't understand anything." Rebecca sighed deeply. This wasn't new. The girls always struggled with numbers. Since they started school, math had been a problem. Rebecca tried to help at home, sitting with them at the small table in the apartment, trying to explain. But math had never been her strength either. She had barely finished high school before getting pregnant, and numbers had always been a mystery to her. Julian looked at Ava's notebook, furrowing his brow with concern. "May I see?" Ava handed him the notebook sheepishly, her eyes fixed on the ground. Julian opened the notebook and looked at the problems. They were simple addition and subtraction, basic things. 3 plus 2, 5 minus 1, 4 plus 4. To an adult, it was easy. But to a 5-year-old just starting out, who never had someone to teach them properly, it could seem impossible. Julian murmured, studying the questions carefully. "It's not as hard as it looks, I promise. I can help if you want." Ava raised her head slowly, her blue eyes shining with hope. "Can you really?" "Of course I can," Julian said, smiling at her. Rebecca looked at him, surprised and awkward. "You don't have to do that. Seriously, they'll learn at school in time." Julian shook his head firmly. "It's no trouble at all. Actually, I like math. I'm an engineer, remember? I work with numbers all day long, calculations, designs, equations. It's pretty much all I do." Nora's eyes went wide, impressed. "So you're really good at math?" "Very good," Julian replied, a lopsided smile on his face. "And I can teach you too if you want to learn, of course." The girls looked at each other, their eyes suddenly bright. Rebecca hesitated. She didn't want to overstay his kindness. He already did so much. He showed up at school. He walked with them. He gave them attention. But seeing the hope on her daughters' faces, seeing how they looked at Julian as if he could solve all the problems in the world, she couldn't say no. "All right," she agreed, her voice low. "If you really want to." "I do," Julian said, and there was a firmness in his voice that left no room for doubt. They walked to the diner as usual. The girls went ahead, chatting excitedly now, the sadness from before already half forgotten. But when they reached the diner, Julian didn't leave as he usually did. "Can I come in?" he asked, looking at Rebecca. "To help with their homework?" Rebecca looked around. The diner was almost empty. There were only 2 customers in the corner, drinking coffee in silence. Her boss had left early to deal with something at the bank. "You can," she said, adjusting her apron, "but I still have to work. I need to wipe the tables and get things organized." "No problem," Julian replied easily. "I'll stay with them at a table here. We won't be in the way." He sat at a table near the window where the afternoon light was still faintly streaming in. Ava and Nora sat beside him, one on each side, carefully taking their notebooks out of their backpacks. Rebecca took the cleaning rag and went to wipe the tables on the other side of the diner, but she kept watching from a distance, out of the corner of her eye, seeing that scene, strange and beautiful at the same time. Julian opened Ava's notebook carefully and pointed to the first question. "Let's start nice and slow," he said, his voice calm and patient, with no rush at all. "Look here, 3 plus 2. How do we do this?" Ava furrowed her brow, thinking hard. I don't know." "That's okay," Julian said, and there was no irritation in his voice, only patience. "It's okay not to know. We're going to learn right now. Let's use our fingers. Hold up 3 fingers for me." Ava slowly raised 3 fingers on her right hand. "Great," Julian smiled. "Now hold up 2 more fingers on your other hand." Ava raised 2 fingers on her left hand. "Perfect. Now count how many fingers you have up all together. All of them." Ava counted slowly, pointing to each raised finger with care. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. "That's it!" Julian clapped once, excitedly. 3 plus 2 is 5. See how easy it is when we use our fingers. You did it! Ava smiled back, surprised at herself, a big, genuine smile. "I did it!" Nora leaned forward, excited now too. "What about my problem? Can I do it too?" "Of course you can," Julian said, turning to her. "Show me your homework right here." He spent the entire next hour teaching the 2 of them, with infinite patience. No rushing, no irritation. Explaining each question slowly, step by step, using fingers, simple drawings on paper, and examples they could understand. When one of them got it wrong, he didn't get angry. He didn't sigh with impatience. He simply explained it again in a different way with different words until they truly understood. And gradually, like magic, the girls started to get it. Their eyes lit up every time they got a question right. They laughed when Julian praised them, when he said, "Very good," or "Perfect, you're so smart." Rebecca stopped wiping the tables. She stood there in the middle of the empty diner, rag in hand, watching the scene. A man who barely knew her daughters was sitting there, teaching them with a patience she had never seen in anyone. Not in a teacher, not in a relative, not in anyone. He wasn't doing it because he had to. He wasn't doing it out of pity. He was doing it because he truly wanted to. She felt a tight squeeze in her chest, something warm and painful at the same time. Her eyes stung, and she blinked rapidly to hold back the tears. When Julian finally closed the girls and notebooks, it was already dark outside. The streetlights had come on, and the movement on the sidewalk had thinned out. "Done," he said, clapping his hands and smiling. "You did it all, and you did it very well. So I'm proud of you." Ava and Nora jumped from their chairs, excited and full of energy again. "We did it!" Ava shouted, jumping up and down. "Thank you, Julian," Nora said, running to hug his arm. "You're a great teacher." Julian smiled, affectionately ruffling their blonde hair. "You 2 are very smart. You just needed a little help, that's all." "But the credit is all yours." Rebecca set the cleaning rag on a table and approached slowly. "Thank you," she said, her voice low and emotional. "Truly, thank you so much." Julian shook his head. "It was a pleasure. Truly." He looked at the expensive watch on his wrist. "It's getting late. I should go." But before he could stand up from the chair, Rebecca spoke. "Wait." Julian stopped, looking at her attentively. Rebecca took a deep breath. She looked at the girls, who were packing their notebooks into their backpacks, distracted and happy. Then she looked back at Julian. "Why are you doing all of this?" she asked, and her voice trembled a little. "Why do you care so much about them? About us?" Julian was silent for a long moment. Then he sat back down in the chair, slowly. "Because they deserve it," he said, simple and direct. And because I can help. So why wouldn't I? Rebecca felt her eyes sting again. She blinked fast, trying desperately to hold back the tears. No one has ever done this for them before, she said, her voice breaking in the middle. No one has ever truly cared. Julian waited in silence, without interrupting. Rebecca looked at her daughters again. They were laughing at something silly, their little faces happy and carefree. And then she spoke. The words came out before she could hold them back, before she could think properly. Their father left, she said, her voice low but firm, controlled. When they were still babies, they weren't even a year old yet. They barely knew how to crawl. He walked out one day, said he wasn't ready to be a father, that he didn't want that life, that it had been a mistake. Julian didn't say anything. He just listened, his eyes fixed on her. Rebecca continued, the words coming faster now, as if they had been bottled up for years and finally found an exit. He never came back, never called to see if they were okay, never sent money, never helped with anything, never wanted to know if they had food, if they had clothes, if they were sick, nothing. It was as if we simply didn't exist for him anymore, as if he had erased us from his life. She stopped, taking a deep breath, trembling, trying to control her voice, which threatened to break completely. I've raised them alone ever since, she continued, slower now, completely alone. Without help from anyone. My family didn't want to know, friends disappeared. It was just me and them. I work every day. I do what I can. I wake up at 5 in the morning. I come home late at night, and still it's never enough. I can never give them what they deserve. Her voice broke completely now. Tears began to stream down her face, and she couldn't hold them back anymore. I do everything I can, she said, her eyes full of pain and exhaustion. Everything. But life is so hard, so heavy, and I wish I could give them more. I wish I could afford a better school, new clothes, nice toys. I wish I could be more present, take them to the park, play with them. But I can't. I simply can't. There's no time left. There's no money left. There's no energy left. The tears flowed freely now. Rebecca wiped her face with her hand, embarrassed. I'm sorry, she murmured, her voice choked. I didn't mean to say all that. I didn't mean to unload like this. Julian sat there, hands on the table, completely still, looking at Rebecca with deep attention. He didn't say she was strong. He didn't say everything would be fine in the end. He didn't make empty promises he couldn't keep. He just listened, truly listened, with respect, with understanding. And when Rebecca finally managed to raise her eyes to him, expecting to see pity or judgment, or that poor thing, look that everyone always had when they found out her story, she saw something else entirely. Respect. Deep, genuine, true respect. You are a good mother, Julian said, his voice low but firm as stone. The best kind of mother there is, because you didn't give up, because you fight every day, even when you're tired, even when it seems impossible, and they know that. They see what you do. They feel the love you have for them, and that is worth more than anything. Rebecca felt more tears flow, but this time they were different. Sometimes I feel like it's not enough, she whispered, that I should be doing more. It is enough, Julian said, his eyes locked onto hers without wavering. It is more than enough. You are giving them what truly matters in life. Love, presence, effort, dedication. That is worth infinitely more than anything money can buy. Believe me. Rebecca covered her face with her hands, trying to control the sobs rising in her throat. Julian didn't try to touch her. He didn't try to comfort her with pats on the back or empty words. He simply stayed there, present, solid, letting her feel what she needed to feel in her own time. After a few long minutes, Rebecca wiped her face with the back of her hand and took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. I'm sorry, she said again, her voice still trembling. You don't need to apologize, Julian replied firmly. Ever. You have nothing to apologize for. Rebecca looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel judged. She didn't feel small. She didn't feel inadequate. She didn't feel like a failure. She felt understood, seen, respected. and that changed something inside her. Ava and Nora came back to the table, their backpacks ready, excited. "Mom, look, we finished everything," Ava said, showing the notebook with pride. Rebecca smiled, even with her eyes still red and swollen. "See? I knew you two were capable, I always knew." Nora looked at Julian with those huge blue eyes. "Are you coming back tomorrow to teach us more?" Julian looked at Rebecca. She nodded, almost imperceptibly, a small movement of her head. "I'll be back," he said, smiling at the girls, "and we'll do more homework together. As many times as you need." The girls cheered, jumping and hugging each other, happy. Julian stood up, grabbed his leather briefcase, adjusted his overcoat, and said goodbye with a wave. When he stepped through the door and the bell chimed, Rebecca stood there in the middle of the empty diner, watching him walk away down the dark sidewalk, hands in his pockets, and for the first time in a long, long while, she felt something she had completely forgotten, the feeling of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, they weren't so alone in this world. Hope that someone truly cared. And that hope, small and fragile as it was, made all the difference in her weary heart. 2 weeks later, on a common Thursday, Rebecca was finishing tidying the kitchen of the small apartment when she heard the door burst open. "Mom! Mom!" Ava and Nora's voices shouted at the same time, excited. Rebecca dropped the dish towel in the sink and turned toward the door. The girls came running in, backpacks swinging on their backs, blonde hair flying. "What happened?" Rebecca asked, surprised by their excitement. "Did something happen?" Ava threw her backpack on the floor and ran to her mother, grabbing the hem of her apron. "The teacher talked to us today." Nora arrived right beside her, blue eyes shining. "She said we've improved so much in math." Rebecca blinked, confused. "What?" Ava pulled the notebook from her bag, opening it to pages filled with solved problems. "Look, Mom, the teacher gave us stars, and she wrote here, 'Very well done, girls.'" Rebecca took the notebook, her hands trembling slightly. She looked at the pages. The problems were all solved with neat handwriting, and there were gold stars stuck at the top. And at the end of the page, in the teacher's beautiful handwriting, it said, "Excellent progress, congratulations." "And she said it in front of the whole class," Nora said, jumping up and down. "She said we were examples of hard work." "She asked how we learned so fast," Ava added with a huge smile, "and we told her Julian taught us." Rebecca felt a squeeze in her chest. She looked at the notebook again, at the stars, at the teacher's words. The girls had improved, truly, because of Julian. "The teacher said she wants to see you at the next meeting," Nora said, "to talk about us." Rebecca sat down on the kitchen chair, still holding the notebook. Her legs felt weak all of a sudden. She praised you." Her voice came out low. "She did," they both said together excitedly. Rebecca looked at her daughters, at their happy little faces, their eyes shining with pride, their huge smiles, and then she started to cry. It wasn't a cry of sadness, it was something else, something deeper. "Mom?" Ava asked, worried. "Why are you crying?" Rebecca pulled them both into a tight hug, hiding her face in their blonde hair. "Because I am so proud of you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. So proud." The girls hugged their mother back, tightly. "We studied really hard," Nora said softly. "Julian helped a lot." "I know," Rebecca replied, wiping the tears with the back of her hand. "I know he helped, and you two put in the effort. You are so smart." She held her daughters' little faces in both hands, looking at them. "You know I love you, right? More than anything in this world." "We know, Mom," Ava said, smiling. Rebecca hugged them again, tighter this time. In that moment, in that small old kitchen with peeling walls and the refrigerator humming, Rebecca felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pride. True pride. Their daughters were doing well. They were learning. They were growing. And even with all the difficulties, even with all the exhaustion, even alone, she was making it. She was doing something right. The girls let go of the hug and went to the bedroom to change clothes, still talking excitedly about school. Rebecca stayed sitting on the chair, looking at the notebook open on the table, at the gold stars, at the teacher's words. She ran her fingers over the pages slowly, feeling the pride swell in her chest. It had been so hard, so exhausting, so many sleepless nights, so many days working until she couldn't take it anymore. So many times she thought she wouldn't make it. But there was the proof that she was making it, that the girls were fine, that she was a good mother, even without money, even without help, even alone. Rebecca wiped the tears that were still flowing and smiled, a small but true smile. She picked up the notebook carefully, as if it was something precious, and went to the girls' room. Ava and Nora were sitting on the floor taking off their school uniforms. "Girls," Rebecca said, her voice firmer now, "I want you to know something." They both looked at their mother. "I know life isn't easy for us," Rebecca continued, kneeling in front of them. "I know sometimes things are missing, that we don't have everything other kids have, but you are my greatest pride, my greatest, and seeing you doing well in school, seeing you putting in the effort, that is worth more than anything." Ava hugged her mother. "We love you, Mom." "And you are the best mom in the world," Nora added. Rebecca squeezed them against her chest, her heart feeling full. "You are also the best daughters in the world." They stayed like that for a while, hugged on the floor of the small bedroom, and in that moment, Rebecca understood something important. She didn't need a lot of money. She didn't need a big house. She didn't need expensive clothes or new toys. She only needed to do the best she could, and that was exactly what she was doing. And the girls felt it. They knew they were loved. They knew their mother fought for them every day, and that was enough. More than enough. That night, after the girls fell asleep, Rebecca sat in the small living room, looking at the notebook open in her lap. She ran her fingers over the gold stars again and smiled to herself in the dark. Even alone, even tired, even without anyone to help for so long, she was making it. She was raising two good, smart, hard-working girls, and that, in the end, was all that mattered. Rebecca closed the notebook carefully and placed it on the shelf in a special spot where she could see it. That would be kept forever, a reminder that she was capable, that she was doing it right, that the effort was worth it. And when she lay in bed that night, for the first time in a long while, Rebecca slept in peace, with a smile on her face and a light heart, because her daughters were okay, and she was doing everything right. The following Saturday, Rebecca was cleaning the living room when there was a knock at the door. She furrowed her brow. No one ever knocked on her door on Saturdays. In fact, no one ever knocked on her door, period. "Who is it?" she asked, approaching slowly. "It's me, Julian." Rebecca stopped, surprised. She looked at the old clothes she was wearing, at her hair tied up haphazardly, at the messy apartment. She opened the door slowly. Julian was there, but he looked different. No suit, no tie. He was wearing jeans and a simple shirt. He looked younger that way, more relaxed. "Hi," he said, smiling. "Sorry to show up without calling, but I was thinking, do you have plans today?" Rebecca blinked. "Plans?" "Yeah," Julian continued. "I thought I'd take the girls out. To the park. Get some ice cream. Nothing too special, just an outing. If you'll let me, of course." Rebecca was speechless for a second. You want to take them out?" "I do," Julian answered. "And you too. All three of you. If you want to come." Before Rebecca could answer, Ava and Nora came running out. "Julian!" they shouted, jumping around him. "Hey, girls!" he said, laughing. "So, do you want to go to the park today?" "Yes," they both shouted together. Julian looked at Rebecca, waiting for her answer. Rebecca hesitated. She had a mountain of things to do. Laundry to wash, the apartment to clean, food to prepare. But seeing her daughter's eyes shining, seeing the expectation on their little faces, she couldn't say no. "All right," she agreed softly. "Let's go." The girls cheered, running to the bedroom to change clothes. 20 minutes later, the four of them were walking down the street toward the park. The day was beautiful, with sun and blue sky. There were people on the sidewalk, shops open, children playing. Ava and Nora went ahead, skipping and laughing, holding hands. Rebecca walked beside Julian, silent at first. She didn't know what to talk about. She wasn't used to this, to outings, to free time, to someone wanting to spend their Saturday with her and her daughters. "Has it been a long time since you've been out for a walk?" Julian asked, looking at her. Rebecca shrugged. "It has. I work almost every weekend. When I'm off, I'm usually too tired to go out." Julian nodded, without judgment. "Then today's a good day to change that." Rebecca looked at him sideways and smiled unintentionally. The park wasn't big, but it was nice. It had trees, green grass, and some old but functioning playground equipment. Other families were there, children running around, parents sitting on benches. Ava and Nora ran straight for the swings. "Mom, Julian, look!" Ava shouted, climbing onto a swing. "Be careful!" Rebecca shouted back, but she was smiling. Julian approached and started pushing Nora's swing. Slowly at first, then harder, making her laugh out loud. "Higher!" "Higher?" Nora asked, laughing. Rebecca stood there, watching the scene. Julian pushing the swing, the girls laughing, the sun hitting their blonde hair. It seemed so normal, so simple, so right. She felt something warm in her chest. "Aren't you going to swing too?" Julian asked, looking at her. Rebecca laughed. "Me? I'm way too old for that." "You're never too old to swing," Julian replied, smiling. Rebecca shook her head, but she went to the empty swing next to Ava. She sat down, gripping the chains, and started swinging slowly. The girls laughed, seeing their mother swinging too. "Go, Mom!" Ava shouted. Rebecca swung harder, feeling the wind on her face, and then she laughed. A spontaneous, free laugh that came out without her even thinking. Julian looked at her and smiled. After the swings, they went to the ice cream shop on the corner of the park. It was a small, simple place with a few plastic tables on the sidewalk. "Pick whatever flavor you want," Julian said, looking at the girls. Ava and Nora pressed their faces against the glass of the freezer, looking at all the flavors intently. "I want chocolate," Ava said. "I want strawberry." Nora chose. Julian looked at Rebecca. "And you?" "I don't need any," Rebecca started, but Julian interrupted. "That wasn't what I asked. Which flavor do you want?" Rebecca hesitated. Then she smiled. "Vanilla." They sat at a table on the sidewalk, eating ice cream. The girls licked their cones fast, making noise, laughing when the ice cream dripped down their hands. Rebecca ate hers slowly, savoring it. It had been so long since she had ice cream. So long since she had done anything just for pleasure. "Is it good?" Julian asked. "It is," Rebecca answered, and it was true. Ava looked at Julian, her face all smeared with chocolate. "You're our best friend, you know." Julian smiled, wiping her face with a napkin. "You're my best friends too." Nora swung her legs on the chair. "We could do this every Saturday." Rebecca opened her mouth to say it wasn't possible, that she worked, that it was complicated. But Julian answered first. "We could. If you want to, we will." The girls cheered, and Rebecca felt her heart tighten again. When they finished their ice cream, they went back to the park. Julian played tag with the girls, running after them, making them laugh non-stop. Rebecca sat on the bench, watching it all, watching her daughters happy, watching them run free, watching them completely trust this man who had appeared in their lives out of nowhere. And she realized something important. They felt safe with him, truly safe. They weren't afraid. They didn't doubt. They knew Julian wasn't going to hurt them, that he was there because he wanted to be, that he cared. And Rebecca, she was starting to feel the same. As the sun began to set, they walked home slowly. The girls went ahead, tired but happy, talking softly. Julian walked beside Rebecca. "Thank you for today," she said, breaking the silence. It was good, for them, for me too." "Thank you," Julian replied. "I had fun, truly." Rebecca looked at him. "Why do you do all of this?" Julian was silent for a moment. Then he answered, "Because being with you makes me feel good. It reminds me of what really matters." Rebecca didn't say anything. She just kept walking, but with a small smile on her face. When they reached the apartment door, the girls hugged Julian tightly. "Thank you for the outing," Ava said. "It was the best day," Nora added. Julian ruffled their blonde hair. "We'll do it again, I promise." After they went inside, Julian stood there for a second more. "See you soon, Rebecca." "See you," she answered, smiling. When he left, Rebecca stood in the doorway, watching him walk away down the street. And that night, when she put the girls to bed, they were still talking about the trip, about the park, about the ice cream, about how cool Julian was. Rebecca covered them with the sheet and gave them a goodnight kiss. "Mom," Ava whispered, already half asleep. "Today was happy," Rebecca smiled, feeling her eyes sting. "Yes, it was, my love. It was very happy." And it was true. It had been a simple day. Nothing special, but it had been perfect. Because for the first time in a long while, they had felt like a real family, safe, happy, complete. A week after the park outing, Rebecca made a decision. She was going to make a dinner for Julian, as a thank you for everything he had done for the girls, for her too. It wasn't going to be anything special. She didn't have money to buy expensive meat or fancy ingredients, but she knew how to cook well. She could make something simple but delicious. On a Friday afternoon, when Julian showed up at school as usual, Rebecca invited him. Would you like to have dinner with us tonight?" she asked nervously. "Nothing too fancy, just a thank you, really." Julian smiled. "I'd love to." Rebecca felt her heart give a leap. When they reached the apartment, she went quickly into the kitchen, trying to get everything ready. The apartment was clean, but it was small and old. The furniture was worn, the walls needed painting, and the table had marks of use. "Sorry about the mess," she said awkwardly. "It's fine," Julian replied, looking around without a hint of judgment in his eyes. While Rebecca cooked, Julian stayed in the living room with the girls, helping them with their homework. Their laughter filled the small apartment, and Rebecca smiled as she stirred the pot. An hour later, dinner was ready. Nothing sophisticated. Rice, beans, roast chicken, and a salad. Simple food, but made with love. They sat at the table. The girls talked excitedly, telling stories about their day at school. Julian listened intently, asking questions and laughing at their tales. Rebecca observed everything in silence, feeling something warm swell in her chest. After the girls finished eating, they asked to go play in their room. Rebecca let them, and suddenly the kitchen went quiet. Just her and Julian at the table. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, but Rebecca felt she needed to speak, that there were things she wanted to say. "Julian," she began, her voice low, "I wanted to thank you, truly, for everything you've done for them." "For me?" Julian shook his head. "You don't need to thank me." "I do," Rebecca insisted, her eyes becoming bright. Because I always had this fear of not being enough for them." Julian remained silent, listening. Rebecca continued, her words coming slowly but firmly. "Since their father left, I've always felt like something was missing, that they needed more than I could give. I've always been both mother and father at the same time, you know? I had to be strong, I had to work, I had to teach, I had to care, all alone. And there was always that fear that I wasn't doing enough." Her voice trembled a little. His absence weighed on everything, on every decision, on every hard day, on every moment I looked at them and thought, do they miss having a father? Will they grow up feeling like something was missing? Rebecca wiped away a tear that escaped. "I always wanted to give them everything, but I never had the means. And that hurts a lot." Julian was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice calm and sincere. "Rebecca, look at me." She raised her eyes. "You are the strongest person I've ever met," Julian said, his eyes fixed on hers. "What you do every day, alone, without help, without rest, it's incredible. And they know that. They feel the love you have. They see the effort you make." Rebecca felt more tears flow. "Sometimes it doesn't feel like it's enough." "But it is," Julian said firmly. "You are mother and father. You are everything to them, and you're doing an incredible job." He hesitated, then continued. "I'm not here to take anyone's place. I'm not trying to be their father. I'm only here because I want to be. Because you two are important to me." Rebecca looked at him, and something shifted inside her. It was the first time someone recognized what she did. The first time someone saw the strength she had to have every single day. "Thank you," she whispered, "for understanding, for not judging." "I would never judge you," Julian replied. "I only admire you." The silence that followed was different, deeper, more intimate. Rebecca felt that something had changed between them. It wasn't just gratitude, it wasn't just friendship. It was something more, something that was growing slowly, without rush. But it was there. Julian helped wash the dishes afterward. They stood side by side at the small sink, talking softly about simple things. About his work, about hers, about the girls, about life. And Rebecca realized she was laughing, truly laughing, feeling light. When Julian left, it was already late. The girls were asleep, and the house was quiet. Rebecca stood at the door, watching him go. "Good night, Rebecca," he said, smiling. "Good night," she replied. And when she closed the door, Rebecca leaned against it for a second, closing her eyes. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. There was someone who saw her, who understood her, who admired what she did, and that changed everything. Rebecca went to her room, lay down in bed, and for the first time in a long while, fell asleep with a smile on her face, feeling that maybe, just maybe, life was starting to get better, that she deserved this, that the girls deserved this, and that Julian somehow had become a part of their lives in a way she never imagined possible, without rush, without force, just naturally. As it should be. 2 weeks after the dinner, on a rainy Saturday afternoon, Julian was sitting in Rebecca's small living room. The girls were playing in their bedroom, and Rebecca had just served coffee to the two of them. They were talking about simple things when Julian suddenly went quiet, staring at the cup in his hands. Rebecca noticed the change. "Are you okay?" she asked. Julian raised his eyes to her. "I am. Just... there's something I never told you. About me." Rebecca leaned forward slightly, curious. "What?" Julian took a deep breath. "I was adopted." Rebecca blinked, surprised. She hadn't expected that. "You were?" Julian nodded, looking back at his cup. "When I was 4 years old, my biological parents, they couldn't take care of me. I don't know all the details. I never wanted to know much. I just know they left me at a shelter." He paused, choosing his words. "I was there for a few months. It was a sad place, full of lost, scared children. I remember not really understanding what was happening. I just knew I was alone." Rebecca remained silent, listening intently. "Until one day, a couple showed up," Julian continued, and a small smile appeared on his face. Carter was their last name. They were wealthy, successful, but they couldn't have children. So they decided to adopt. He raised his eyes to Rebecca. "And they chose me." Rebecca felt a squeeze in her chest. "They took me to their house. A huge house, full of things I'd never seen. They gave me a room all my own, new clothes, toys. But more than that, they gave me love, attention, care." Julian's voice became lower, more emotional. "They put me in a good school. They taught me everything. They supported me in every decision. They paid for my engineering degree. They helped me start my first company. They never treated me like I was different because I was adopted. They never made me feel like I wasn't their real son." Julian cleared his throat, clearly moved. "My adoptive father passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. And my adoptive mother lives in another state now with her family. But I will never forget what they did for me. Never." Rebecca felt her eyes sting. "They saved you." "They did," Julian agreed, looking straight at her. "They gave me a life I never would have had. Opportunities, education, love, everything." He paused again, taking a deep breath. "And since they adopted me, since I grew up and understood what they had done for me, I've always had a dream." "What dream?" Rebecca asked softly. "To adopt a child," Julian said, his voice firm now. "To give to another child what they gave to me, to give back in some way, to make a difference in someone's life the same way they made a difference in mine. Rebecca was speechless. Julian leaned forward, his eyes fixed on hers. When I saw Ava and Nora alone at that school, when they asked me to be their father at the Christmas party, something inside me woke up, Rebecca. Something that had been waiting for years. His voice grew more intense. I connected with them in a way I didn't expect. In a deep way. Every time I see them, every time I teach them math, every time I hear them laugh, I feel that this is it. This is what I've always wanted to do. Rebecca felt a tear roll down her face. Julian, I want to do for them what was done for me, Julian said, his voice trembling slightly now. I want to provide opportunities. I want to provide education. I want to provide security. I want to be present. I want to be someone they can rely on. He paused, taking a deep breath. I'm not trying to replace anyone. I know you're their mother. I know you do everything for them, but I want to help. I want to be here. I want to be a part of their lives. If you'll let me... Rebecca covered her face with her hands, sobs coming out uncontrollably now. Everything made sense all of a sudden. Why he had stopped that day. Why he had agreed to go to the party. Why he kept showing up. Why he cared so much. It wasn't pity. It wasn't charity. It was purpose. It was gratitude transformed into action. Julian stood up and approached her, but he didn't try to touch her. He just stood there, close. I'm sorry if I said too much, he said softly. I needed you to know. I needed you to understand why I'm here. Rebecca wiped her face with trembling hands and looked at him. You really want to do this? Her voice came out broken. To be in their lives. For real? For real, Julian answered without hesitation. With everything I have, with all that I am. Rebecca stood up, still trembling, and did something that surprised them both. She hugged Julian. It was a tight hug, desperate, full of built-up emotion. Julian was surprised for a split second, but then he returned the hug, holding her gently. Thank you, Rebecca whispered against his shoulder. Thank you for choosing them, for choosing us. Julian tightened the hug a little more. Thank you for letting me be here. They stayed like that for a long moment. Two adults who had been through different pains, who had different stories, but who were now united by something greater, by the love for two small girls with blonde hair and blue eyes. When they pulled away, Rebecca wiped her face again and smiled, even with red eyes. They're going to be so happy when they find out. Find out what? Ava's voice came from the bedroom door. The two girls were standing there, looking curious. Rebecca looked at Julian. He nodded. Come here, girls, Rebecca called, opening her arms. Ava and Nora ran to her, and Rebecca hugged them tight. Julian has a very beautiful story to tell you, she said, looking at him. Julian knelt in front of the girls, at their eye level. When I was little, about your age, a family chose me, he began in a calm voice. And they changed my whole life. They gave me love, care, and opportunities. The girls listened intently. And now I want to do the same for you, Julian continued, smiling. I want to be here. I want to help you grow up. I want to see you happy, because you two are very special to me. Ava looked at Nora. Nora looked back, and then both of them jumped on Julian at the same time, hugging him tightly. We love you, Julian, Ava said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. You're the best, Nora added. Julian closed his eyes, hugging the two little ones, feeling something deep and true in his chest. This was real. This was right. He had found what he had been looking for his whole life. Rebecca watched the scene, tears flowing freely now, but they were good tears. For the first time, she wasn't alone in that fight. For the first time, there was someone by her side who truly wanted to be there, and that changed everything, absolutely everything. In the days following Julian's revelation, something shifted in the dynamic between them. It wasn't anything dramatic. There were no long talks about what it meant. It was something natural that happened gradually, like water shaping stone. Julian began to appear more often, not just at school pickup, but at other times too. At the grocery store, helping Rebecca carry heavy bags. At the apartment, fixing a faucet that had been dripping for months. At the building's laundry room, helping fold clothes while they talked. It was as if he had become part of their routine, and no one questioned it. It was simply natural. On a Tuesday night, while the girls were sleeping, Julian and Rebecca were sitting in the small living room. He had stayed for dinner again, and now they were drinking tea in comfortable silence. Julian broke the silence first. "How you know I didn't expect this to happen?" he said, looking at the cup in his hands. "What?" Rebecca asked. "This," Julian gestured vaguely around. "Connecting with you like this. When I saw the girls that day at school, I just wanted to help. But now it's different." Rebecca stayed quiet, listening. "Now I can't imagine my life without being here," Julian continued, looking at her. "Without seeing them grow up, without being a part of this. I connected with them in a way I didn't expect, in a deep way." His voice became firmer. "And I want you to know, Rebecca, I will do everything I can for them, everything. It's not an empty promise. It's a commitment." Rebecca felt a squeeze in her chest. She looked at this man sitting in her living room, speaking with such sincerity, such certainty. "I believe you," she said softly. "For the first time in a long time, I actually believe in someone." Julian smiled, a small but true smile. "Thank you for trusting me." Rebecca shook her head. "Thank you for earning that trust." And at that moment, looking at him, Rebecca felt something she hadn't felt in years. Admiration. Deep, true admiration for who he was, for his strength, his goodness, his commitment. Julian wasn't just a rich man helping out of pity. He was someone with a purpose, someone with a history, someone who understood the value of being chosen, of being loved, of having someone believe in you, and he was choosing to be there, with them. The following weeks showed even more of this change. When Ava got sick with a high fever, it was Julian who drove Rebecca and the girl to the hospital in the middle of the night. He waited in the emergency room for hours, holding Nora in his lap while she slept. When Rebecca had a problem at work and her boss threatened to fire her for being late, it was Julian who talked to her about her rights, who helped her stand up for herself. When Nora cried because a girl at school had laughed at her old coat, it was Julian who showed up the next day with new coats for both of them. Not too expensive, not flashy, just nice, warm, and new. And Rebecca, she began to do the same. She saved coffee for him every morning exactly how he liked it. She started asking about his work, about the projects, about the difficult meetings. She began to worry when he arrived tired, when he seemed stressed. They became partners, not dating yet, not officially, but partners in raising the girls, partners in daily life, partners in decisions, worries, and joys. On a Thursday, the school teacher asked to speak with Ava and Nora's guardians. Rebecca got nervous, thinking it was something bad. "I'll go with you," Julian said when she told him. "You don't have to," Rebecca started, but he interrupted. "I want to go. We're a team now, remember?" Rebecca smiled and agreed. They went to the meeting together. They sat side by side in the teacher's small office while she flipped through papers. "I wanted to talk to you about the girls' progress," the teacher began, and then she smiled. "They've improved so much, especially in math. They're among the best in the class now." Rebecca felt her eyes fill with tears. "Really? Really?" the teacher confirmed. "And it's not just the grades. They're more confident, more involved. They're happy at school. Whatever you're doing at home is working perfectly." She looked at Julian and Rebecca. "You two make a great team as parents." Rebecca and Julian looked at each other. Neither of them corrected the teacher, because in a way, it was true. When they left the school, Rebecca stopped on the sidewalk and looked at Julian. "Did you hear what she said?" "I did," Julian answered. "A team," Rebecca repeated, smiling. "She said we're a team." Julian smiled back. "And we are." Rebecca felt something warm in her chest, something that went beyond gratitude, something she was still afraid to name. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being here, for staying, for caring." Julian took a step closer. "I'm not here out of obligation, Rebecca. I'm here because I want to be, because you three are important to me, because this—" He gestured between them. "This is real." Rebecca held his gaze, feeling her heart beat faster. "It's real," she agreed, her voice barely a whisper. They stood like that for a moment on the empty sidewalk, the afternoon sun hitting them both, and something unsaid, but deeply felt, passed between them. It wasn't just about the girls anymore. It was about them too, about what was growing there, slowly but steady, about how two wounded adults, each with their own story of abandonment and struggle, were finding healing in each other. When they returned home that day, the girls noticed something different. "You're happy today," Ava observed, looking at her mother and Julian. Rebecca smiled. "We are." "Why?" Nora asked, curious. Julian knelt in front of them. "Because the teacher said you're doing very well in school, and because being with you makes us happy." The girls smiled and hugged him, and Rebecca, watching that scene, realized something important. She didn't just admire what Julian did, she admired who he was, and she was beginning to feel something deeper for him. Something that scared her a little, but also felt right, natural, inevitable. They had become partners without even realizing it, and maybe, just maybe, they were becoming something more. 3 months later, on a Sunday morning, Rebecca woke up early and went to the kitchen to prepare coffee. She was setting the cups on the table when she stopped. 4 cups. She was setting 4 cups automatically, making coffee exactly how Julian liked it, setting out the toast he preferred. Rebecca looked toward the living room. Julian was sleeping on the sofa, covered with an old blanket. He had stayed late helping the girls with homework and ended up too tired to go home. This was happening more and more often. Julian slept there 3-4 times a week. He arrived early in the morning for breakfast. He took the girls to school. He picked them up when Rebecca couldn't. He had dinner with them every night. He helped with homework. He put the girls to bed. Rebecca looked around. There was a toothbrush of his in the bathroom, clothes on the line, shoes by the door, a briefcase leaning against the wall. She sat down, her heart racing. They were already living like a family. The routine was established. The girls woke up looking for Julian. They ran to hug him. They told him secrets. They asked his opinion on everything, and Rebecca consulted him on decisions, shared her worries, laughed with him, cried with him, trusted him completely. They were already a family in everything but name. That afternoon, after the girls went out to play, Julian asked to talk. There was something different about him, a seriousness. They sat in the living room, facing each other. Julian took a deep breath, clearly nervous. "Rebecca, I need to say something important," he began. She nodded, waiting. "These months with you have been the best of my life," Julian said. "Every day, every moment. I wake up happy because I know I'll see you." He paused. "And I've realized something. We already live like a family. The routine is set. The girls see me as a father. You and I are partners in everything." Rebecca felt her eyes sting. Julian leaned forward. "So I want to make it official. I want to form a real family with you. I don't want to be just the friend who stops by anymore. I don't want to sleep on the sofa and leave. I want to be here. Completely. Forever." His voice trembled. "And I want to ask your permission to adopt Ava and Nora officially. I want to register them as my daughters. I want the legal right to care for them, to protect them. I want them to have my last name. I want the world to know they are my daughters." Rebecca covered her mouth, tears streaming down. "It's not out of obligation," Julian continued quickly. "It's not charity. It's love, Rebecca. True love. I love those girls as if they were mine. As if they always had been." He paused, trembling. "And I love you too. I love you deeply. As a woman, as a mother, as a partner, I fell in love with you bit by bit, every single day." Rebecca sobbed, unable to hold it back. "I want to build a life with you," Julian said, his voice breaking. "A real family, based on choice, on love. Not because you need me, but because I choose you. Every day I choose you, and I hope you choose me too." Rebecca couldn't speak. Julian waited, his heart beating fast. Finally, Rebecca managed to take her hands away from her mouth. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes. Yes to everything, Julian." Julian relaxed completely. "Yes." Rebecca nodded, smiling through her tears. "Yes, you can adopt them. You can be their father officially, Because you already are. You're already the father they never had. You're already everything to them. To me, too. Her voice broke. And I love you, too. I love you so much it hurts sometimes. So much I'm afraid I'll wake up and find out it was a dream. Julian stood up quickly and pulled Rebecca close, hugging her tight. She buried her face in his shoulder, crying, letting it all out. "Thank you," Julian whispered. "Thank you for letting me be a part of this, for choosing me." "Thank you for choosing us," Rebecca replied, "for choosing us when nobody else did." They stayed like that for a long time, hugged, crying together. When they pulled apart, Julian held her face and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, then it deepened, full of promise of the future. When they told the girls, Ava and Nora didn't quite understand at first. "Is Julian going to live with us?" Ava asked. "Better than that," Rebecca said. "He's going to be your daddy for real, officially." Julian knelt in front of them. "I'm going to legally adopt you," he explained. "You'll have my last name. You'll be my daughters, and I'll be your daddy, forever." "Forever and ever?" Nora asked, her voice small. "Forever," Julian promised. "I swear, I'll never leave. I'll never abandon you." The girls jumped on him at the same time. "Daddy!" Ava shouted. "You're our daddy!" "Daddy!" Nora repeated, laughing and crying. Julian closed his eyes, hugging the two little ones, feeling his heart explode. "My girls, my daughters, mine forever." Rebecca watched with her hands over her heart, crying. Her family. Finally, after so much time fighting alone, she had a real family, complete, chosen, based on love, not by necessity, not out of desperation, but by pure choice. Because Julian was good, because he truly loved the girls, because he made her feel seen, valued, and loved, and because she loved him too. They had built a family, not by blood ties, but by the ties of choice, and those were the strongest ties of all. That night, when she lay in bed, Rebecca stayed awake looking at the ceiling, thinking about all that had happened, about how life had changed, and for the first time in years, she fell asleep with a smile on her face, with peace in her heart, with hope for the future, because she finally had found where she belonged. She had found her family, and that family, built with love and choice, was forever. 2 months had passed since Julian asked to officially adopt the girls. It was 2 months of paperwork, lawyers and interviews with social workers. Julian handled everything with dedication, never complaining, always patient. And finally, on a Tuesday morning, they went to the courthouse. When they walked out, Ava and Nora Miller had officially become Ava Carter and Nora Carter. The girls held the new documents as if they were treasures. "Look at our new name," Ava shouted to everyone on the street. "We have Daddy's last name," Nora said, jumping for joy. Rebecca and Julian walked behind, holding hands and smiling. "Thank you," Rebecca whispered, squeezing his hand. "For what?" Julian asked. "For making them officially yours." Julian stopped and held her hands. "You two gave me this. You gave me purpose. You gave me a family. I'm the one who should be thanking you." Rebecca smiled and kissed him right there in the middle of the sidewalk. A week later, Julian called Rebecca and the girls to the living room. "I have a surprise for you," he said, with a mysterious smile. The girls sat down, curious. Rebecca stood by their side. Julian pulled an envelope from his pocket and handed it to Rebecca. "What is it?" "Open it." Rebecca opened it slowly. Inside was a key and official papers. She looked at the documents. They were for a house, recently purchased. "Julian, what is this?" He knelt in front of the three of them. "I bought a house. For us. For our family." Rebecca's eyes went wide. "You bought a house?" "I did. It has 3 bedrooms, a large living room, a spacious kitchen, and a backyard with grass. It's in a good neighborhood, near a better school. I want us to move. I want us to start our lives together, in a place of our own." Rebecca covered her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. "Julian, I don't know what to say." "Say yes. Say you want to live with me. Build our life together." Rebecca looked at the girls. They were excited. "Are we going to have a real house?" Ava asked. With a yard? Nora added. Rebecca looked at Julian, smiling through her tears. Yes, I want to very much, we do. Julian hugged the three of them at once. 2 weeks later, they were moving. When the car stopped in front of the house, the girls went silent, just staring. It was beautiful. A single-story, white house with blue accents, a small porch, large windows, and a well-kept garden. Is this our house? Ava whispered. Our real home, Julian confirmed. Forever. The girls ran out and stopped at the door, waiting. Julian opened the door slowly. Welcome to our new home. The girls ran inside and exploring every corner. The living room was spacious and full of light. The kitchen was modern. There were 3 large bedrooms, but the backyard drove them wild. It was small but lawned, with trees and space to play. Can we plant flowers, Daddy? Nora asked. You can do whatever you want, Julian replied. It's yours. The girls went running through the yard. Rebecca stood at the kitchen door, watching. Julian came from behind and hugged her. Are you happy? More than I ever imagined I could be. In the following days, they organized the house together. The girls helped decorate their room. They chose colors, decided where to put the furniture. They got new beds, new clothes, and new toys. Rebecca organized everything with care, flowers in the windows, photos on the walls, and colorful curtains. Julian set up an office in a corner of the living room, but he spent most of his time with the family. The new routine established itself naturally. Breakfast together every morning, talking about the day. Julian took the girls to their new school. Rebecca went to her new job that Julian helped her get, with a decent salary and normal hours. And every day they had dinner together. It was sacred. At 7 in the evening, everyone was at the table, sharing food and stories. After dinner, homework, Julian continued to teach math, but also other subjects. Rebecca helped with reading and writing. The girls' grades skyrocketed. They went from average students to the best in the class, but more important was their confidence, the certainty that they were capable, the joy of learning. The weekends were special. Saturday mornings were for pancakes. Julian taught the girls how to make them, letting them help. Saturday afternoons were for outings, the park, the movies, or just staying home and playing in the yard. Sundays were quiet, waking up late, long breakfasts, and reading in the living room. It was simple, but perfect. 3 months after the move, on a Saturday afternoon, Rebecca was at the kitchen window. In the yard, Julian was sitting on the grass with Ava and Nora. They had notebooks open. They were drawing together, some art project. Julian was holding a pencil, coloring. Nora was lying on the grass, focused. Ava proudly showed her drawing. Look, Daddy, is it pretty? It's beautiful, Julian replied. You have a lot of talent. Ava beamed at the praise. The sun hit the 3 of them, making the girls' blonde hair shine and illuminating Julian's smile. Rebecca watched in silence, her heart full. She thought about the whole journey to get there, about all the years of fighting alone, all the moments thinking she wouldn't make it, all the days crying from exhaustion. And now she was there in a beautiful house, seeing her daughters happy and safe, with a good man who loved them. Life had been transformed, not by magic, but by choice, by love, by commitment. Julian looked at the window and waved. Rebecca waved back, her heart overflowing. Mom, come here, Nora shouted. Daddy is teaching us how to draw clouds. Rebecca smiled. Daddy. So natural now. She went out and sat on the grass beside Julian. He put his arm around her shoulders and kissed her temple. Is everything okay? Everything is perfect. The girls continued drawing, talking excitedly. And there, in that simple yard on that ordinary afternoon, there was something magical. Not the magic of fairy tales, but the real magic of life, of people choosing to love each other every day. Rebecca's life had been transformed, from a desperate single mother to a mother in a loving family, from a hopeless woman to a woman at peace. And the girls had gained something precious, a father who chose them, who was there not out of obligation but out of love, and that chosen love was the most powerful of all. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in orange and pink, The family went inside together. They had dinner, laughed and talked about plans. They put the girls to bed, reading stories and giving kisses. And when Rebecca and Julian lay down, exhausted but happy, she whispered, "Thank you for everything. Thank you for letting me be a part of it." They fell asleep in each other's arms, at peace and complete. And in that house, in that family built with love and choice, everyone was happy. Not because life was perfect, but because they had each other. And that was all that mattered. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.